Who here has done or knows anything about color theory? Okay, cool. So we're going to go a little bit deeper today, hopefully, but not too deep. And of course, as always, feel free to ask questions. So let's watch the video to begin with, and then...
Have you ever wondered how some artists are able to find perfect color combinations that just seem to work every time? It's not just art, it's science, and we call it color theory. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the color wheel and some basic formulas known as color harmonies to choose color combinations that are appealing, cohesive, and just look good. Using color harmonies, you can evoke certain emotions, create a mood, or add context to your images. When you don't use color harmony, your art can appear bland and boring, or so chaotic that your brain can't process it properly. So let's start at the beginning. You may remember back at school where you learned about primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. We are taught that the primary colors are red, blue, and yellow. When mixed together, these make the secondary colors, green, orange, and purple. Take it a step further and you'll get the tertiary colors, yellow, green, red, orange, and so on. These make up the traditional color wheel that was created by Sir Isaac Newton and helps us to understand how different colors work together. The traditional color wheel is no longer the only color wheel that exists. There are other color wheels and methods that are used by artists and designers to create a bigger range of colors when mixed together. These color wheels are important and we'll talk about them in a future video, but when it comes to choosing color combinations, the traditional color wheel is still our best resource for understanding color harmony and how colors work together to create beautiful art. There are four main qualities of each color on our wheel. The first is hue. This is simply the color position around the wheel and the brightest, purest version of each color. Our wheel uses 12 main colors, but we can also work with all of the hues in between. Second, we have saturation. This can also be known as intensity or chroma. This tells us how vibrant a color is. A desaturated color is grayed out and dull, while a saturated color is vibrant and strong. Then we have value. This tells us how dark or light a color is. We can create shades of our color by adding black or tints of our color by adding white. We can also add tone by adding gray. And finally, we have temperature. The color wheel can be split into two main groups, warm colors and cool colors. But individual colors can also change in temperature as we move around our wheel. A warm red includes more yellow, and a cool red includes more blue. When we combine hue, saturation, value, and temperature, we find ourselves with a myriad of variations of each of our 12 main colors. So how do we use all these colors together? We can use our 12 basic hues on the color wheel along with some easy to follow formulas to create an endless collection of color combinations that look balanced, appealing, and just work. These formulas are known as color harmonies. The first and easiest is a monochromatic color harmony. This takes just one base color or hue from our wheel and uses different shades, tones, or tints to create a group of colors. It's one of the easiest color harmonies to create and looks simple, cohesive, and organized. Next, we have a complementary color scheme. This takes two colors from opposite sides of the color wheel, such as red and green or blue and orange. This type of color scheme is great for creating strong contrast in your image. A split complementary color scheme is similar to a complementary color scheme, except one of the colors is split into two nearby colors. This keeps the high contrast of the complementary color scheme, but also adds more variety. A triadic color scheme uses three colors that are evenly spaced around the color wheel like a triangle. These color combinations are often bold and vibrant. Tetradic colors are four colors in a rectangle shape, made up of two sets of complementary colours together as one palette. These palettes work best when you focus on one main colour and use the other colours as contrasting accents. An analogous colour scheme uses 2 to 4 colours that are next to each other on the colour wheel. This is one of the simplest and most appealing colour harmonies and works best if you choose one dominant colour and use the other colours as accents. These different colour harmonies are a great guide to create colours that work well together. You can create more variety by changing the shades, tones, and tints within each colour palette, giving you endless ways to mix and match colours that look great. This can all be a bit overwhelming, but don't worry. After you've started applying these methods, you'll start to pick up an intuition and confidence for which colours work well together and which colours don't. Here are some general tips to help you. First, pick one dominant colour. Whichever colour harmony you choose, using one dominant colour will create a sense of balance in your design. You can choose one main colour and use the rules of colour harmonies to find other colours that work as accents or smaller details in your design. Next, use just a few colours. Simple is best. Adding too many colours in your design can quickly become overwhelming or chaotic to your viewers. Choosing just a few colours and applying these colour rules can create art that is bold, simple, and yet still interesting. Finally, you can use colour palettes for inspiration. Learning the rules of colour theory can help you know what works well together, but it doesn't mean you have to start from scratch every time. You can find colour palettes like those I've included in the colour catalogue that are inspired by nature or existing designs and naturally incorporate colours that look good together. Choosing good colour combinations doesn't have to be hard, and challenging yourself to use some of these tools and formulas can expand your skills and help you to be creative in a whole new way.
Okay, so this is the 7 color schemes. There are more than 7 color schemes, but these are like the 7 main most important ones. So what we just saw in the video. Any questions about that? It's okay, we'll talk about them some more. Okay. So no, the test is practical. You apply it to your art. So monochromatic. That's one color, and this one only shows the tints, right? So the main color, the main shade or hue or whatever, and then like lighter versions of it. And an example of it used in a design. And you can create some really cool, beautiful landscapes using monochromatic color schemes. Complementary. What immediately comes to mind when you see red and green together? Christmas, right? Oh. Christmas. Red and green. I know, I see red and green and I think Christmas. So they tend to, if you put them like over each other, they kind of jump and they kind of confuse your eyes a little bit. But if you actually desaturate or darken or lighten one or both of these colors, then it can be look really nice together. So the top would be one color scheme and the bottom would be another color scheme. But so tint, tone, and shade. This is something that I want you to kind of pay attention to. So you've got your hue, that's the main color. So the pure color as it comes out of as it is on the color wheel, like this outside color. And then a tint is if you add white. A tone is if you add pure gray, and a hue, or a shade is if you add pure black, which is, shade's easy to remember, right? Shade, shadow, black. This is an example of a split complementary color scheme in a landscape. So the blue sky and then the different shades of orange on the rocks. This is a tetradic color scheme. So that's where you've got 2 that are kind of close together and they form a rectangle on the color wheel. So we're doing fruit. We're going to be painting fruit on a background today. So That's an idea, something to keep in mind. So triadic would be 3 colors evenly spaced like a triangle. And that's an example of a triadic color scheme in a landscape. So you've got the blue of the sky, the yellow of the grass, and then the red of the mountains. And it looks, do you have feelings about this? Like, do you have one that you prefer over the other? Between like this and the complementary color scheme, for example? The complementary? Who feels that they prefer the complementary to a triadic color scheme? Complementary? Triadic? Okay, see? Monochromatic? I kind of dig monochromatic too. Okay. So, and then another example, again, if you take that really shocking triadic color scheme from earlier, you desaturate. See, the top ones I created tints, and the bottom ones I created shades, and it kind of looks cool. So, analogous, which is 4 colors that are next to each other. So it's basically just like taking a slice out of the color wheel. Sometimes you can get them where they're more than 4 colors, but technically speaking, they should be 4 colors. So I really like analogous color schemes personally. As an example of a photograph, technically you could make the argument that there's some orange in this too, but it looks very nice, it looks very appealing. There's another one. This is 5 colors that are next to each other in this photograph. And again, I would make the argument that there's orange in there. Yes?
This color wheel doesn't look like that color wheel.
Yeah, I know. The color wheel comes in a whole variety so I think part of this is these are ones that Emily made for another program that she had, and I think our printer didn't print the mix between the yellow and the green so well, and some of the oranges didn't come out so good. So
Okay. I thought maybe this was like a special one.
no, yeah.
For like using the triadic, you can use a tint or a
Tone, yes.
Okay, by using white or dark.
You can use a tint, a tone, or a shade of any of the color schemes.
Can you mix a tint, if you're using triadic, if those 3 colors, can you use tints of those 3 colors with tones of those 3 colors?
Yes.
And have it work?
Yes. There are some of the examples here that, so for the analogous, so in this example, the bottom one, I created shades of 3 of them, and I created, technically, I guess this dirty green color here, this like sage green, is, I suppose it's technically a tone of it. Yeah, I would be, because I added gray to it, although it's not pure gray. So yeah, I like to desaturate colors personally. Also, like if you go a little bit deeper into like color psychology and stuff, like what the designers use to create brands and things like that, when you desaturate colors, they tend to appeal to a more mature and upscale audience. So if you think about like Vogue magazine, or pretty much any of the papers covering the table, which are the New York Times magazine, like Ralph Lauren, gray, black, brown, Chanel No. 5, like desaturated shades of like pink. And if you think about a teen magazine, it's just covered in bright colors, right? Because it makes us think of youthfulness and vibrancy and liveliness, but also immaturity and frivolousness. So a square is the four corners that are opposite each other. And that's an example of a square. So yeah, you'll see a lot of square color harmonies in food commercials because they look vibrant and fun and yummy and candy. Again, another desaturated. So again, I darkened the yellow or the orange. I desaturated and tinted the I just tinted the red, I desaturated the green, and I shaded the purple. So, color communicates. This is the fun stuff. Okay, so if you look at the photo on the left and the photo on the right, it's the same lady with the creepy facial expression. Is she inviting you to the bedroom, or is she stalking you? Right? So the use of... It's not exactly the same photo, but... Yeah, it's the same photo session, it's the same model. But you see how the use of color changes the message and the meaning of what you're looking at, makes you feel differently about the photo and the person. Okay? So the same landscape, this one is the same exact photo, that's the colors changed on it. How do you, when you look at the one on the left, how do you feel about it?
Blue.
It's cold, okay?
I like the one on the left. It's pretty colors.
It's like sunrise.
It's like a sunrise. So sunrises represent promise, new beginnings, hope.
Yeah, the other side to me looks stormy too.
Right? The one on the right looks gloomy. There's reds in there. Makes you think there's danger lurking on the horizon. Right?
The clouds look gray.
Clouds look gray. There's lots of reds, dark colors, yellows, like warning signals, right? The one on the red makes you think, do not go out on a boat right now. The one on the left's like, let's meditate on the beach.
Yes.
But, you know, different people also have different associations with different colors. So you're going to find individual responses. Okay, this is a really cool, fun infographic about the things we associate with color, and these are based on mostly Western thoughts and feelings and ideas. It's not necessarily the same. Like, for example, in Asia, white is the color of death, not black. So they're going to be slightly different. But for brands, optimism, clarity, and warmth are associated with yellow. So look at the brands that are under the yellow banner, right? These are things that you associate with movement and friendliness, and like their Shell, it's an oasis on your journey, right? Best Buy, they're ostensibly friendly over there. Subway, sustenance, right? Friendly, cheerful, and confident would be orange, so Hooters. I didn't say it, it's up there. Firefox, of course, right? So and Firefox logo, by the way, also uses what color scheme? Blue and orange?
They're contrasting colors.
Complementary color scheme. Okay, yeah, they're complementary. Red is excitement, bold, and youthfulness. So Coca-Cola, Kmart, Legos, Avis, Canon. Target, right? Bold, definitely bold. Target. Purple is creativity, imagination, wisdom. So sci-fi, Yahoo, Cadbury's. Purple is also associated with luxury. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.
That was the color of royalty.
It was the color of royalty, exactly. It used to be extremely difficult to make it because they'd have to go collect some shells and crush them.
Purple?
And
How's T-Mobile's purple?
T-Mobile is purple. Well, I guess it's like it's technically, I guess, magenta, but the little squares next to it are purple. But magenta is a shade of, a tint of purple. I have to be careful how I talk now. Okay. So blue would be trust, dependability, and strength. So these brands are trying to communicate those things. Pfizer is interesting there. Peaceful, health, and growth associated with green. So yeah, it's interesting that I don't really associate. Does anybody here know what greenwashing is?
Sure.
Tell us.
It's like, you make a cookie with palm oil or something, and then you put on it, and like the packaging, they'll say, it's good for your heart. And our ingredients are gathered sustainably.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what does that mean? Like, you just buy it
Yeah.
and it looks good.
Yeah.
But it sounds, but you don't like dig any deeper.
Yeah, so greenwashing is where we tell people that things are environmentally friendly, and that might be open to interpretation. There's a lot of brands, if you think Grow Financial, that's
Right.
like, what is green about a bank? Like, and if
Money.
I mean, but it's not, grow is not, it's not like green money green, it's like grow plants, and I don't know, it
Grow your funds.
yeah,
Grow
yeah.
your financial
But it
status.
also makes you, it's also like the aesthetics of it is,
Everybody's money is green.
some people's money is brown, right? Brown coins. But it makes you think like nature, and like it appeals to like a certain audience, right? People who care about the environment, for example. And then white, or would be balance, peace, and calm. So like brands that are generally kind of trying to appeal to a more mature audience. Okay, what are they selling? Interiors of food places. What are they selling? What kind of food?
Optimism.
Well, what kind of food? No, what can I order there?
Exciting.
Fast food, right?
Yeah.
Fast food.
Oh.
Yes, you see a lot of reds and yellows and orange, right? Colors that are associated with movement and action and eat faster. So some of the cool, interesting things about orange. So it's fun and ambitious. It's an attention getter, and it's a color that's often used for calls to action, right? Like those buttons that says buy now, or add to cart, or right? Call to action buttons. Yellow, happiness and optimism. Studies show that yellow releases serotonin in people when they look at it. Not me, because I don't like yellow, but a lot of people, when you're sitting in McDonald's, they're appealing to your serotonin release in your brain. They want you to be happy there, because then you'll come back, right? Red, excitement and demands attention. Studies show that red actually increases your heart rate. So if your heart rate is going faster, that means you eat faster. That means you leave faster. That means they can sell more burgers. So it's not accidental. What kind of food can you get at these places? Fine dining. Sit down, fine dining. What colors do you see?
Blues, whites, yellow.
Yeah, so the yellows would be again that like happy serotonin, soft lighting, blues, whites, yellows, and browns. Very dull, subtle shades of browns, right? So gray, solid, timeless, associated with stone or rock. It communicates sturdiness and longevity. Brown, it's earthy, it's organic, it's good for you, right? It's natural. It's associated with being natural, and it can be very soothing. Blue, trust and loyalty, right? A lot of people say that blue is their favorite color, but it's also a very calming color. It's also a peaceful, serene color. What are they selling? What food? Fresh,
Fresh, yeah.
health food, right? Green, associated with growth and nature, money. It's the easiest color for the eye to process. Blue, trust and loyalty. Trust that our food is good for you. And then white, cleanliness. This food is clean. It's going to be clean in your body. And it's associated with purity. What is this? What does this make you feel?
Rich.
Rich, right? These people have money. And you would be surprised how many black cars with purple interiors are on the internet. When you search for purple and black design, you get like a crumb load of black and purple cars. Sports cars, race cars, expensive cars. And then a lot of like really gothic like palaces. Purple brand mattress, luxury, right? Cadbury's, Hallmark, luxury. Taco Bell, we're different. BenQ is a brand that they create computers and stuff for art and like special applications. So it's a color that's associated with creativity and originality. And then Urban Decay, they want to stand out. We are not those pink makeup brands. So purple or violet, prosperity and royalty. studies show that this color actually stimulates problem solving, black, elegance and power, and for a lot of people, death and depression. Gives an impression of strength and authority. Okay, so let's make some color schemes. Okay, so I'm going to escape from this here. I'm going to hit edit. So let's test what you learned. This is the test before we start painting fruit. Okay, so this is a 2-color color scheme. So I'm going to go with that, go with that, and tell me which color I should select. Somebody say stop.
You should need to go back.
I'll go around. I'll go clockwise.
Sure, so,
Stop.
okay.
Okay, that one. So what is the complementary color?
Orange, yellow.
Yellow. This is like a yellowy orange. It's, yeah, this color wheel is not, man, I'm sorry, I did not notice that until now. Emily actually made this, and the opposite of purple is yellow, not orange. But okay, this is like a bluish purple. This is magenta, but okay.
All the sports teams always have complementary colors.
Yes.
All the, yeah,
Why?
I don't know. They look pretty good.
Because they move when you put them on top of each other. Let's see. I'll show you what I mean. So I think that's the actual complementary color for purple. Do you see what happens when I pop them on top of each other? What your eye does to that little line, it starts moving, right? So it creates movement, it's vibrant. And if we do this with, like if we change this color to red, and we change this color to green, same thing will happen. You see that line? It will not sit still, right?
Just imagine if some pro team went out with like pink and purple uniforms.
That would be
Two
upsetting.
analogous colors.
Actually, in South Africa, one of the rugby teams did wear pink uniforms for breast cancer awareness, and people just lost their minds. They were like, how dare you touch my rugby team? This is not okay. It's not manly enough. Do we like this color scheme, this red and green?
The green is too bright.
Okay, so let's change the green to make this harmonious.
There you go.
Okay, so what are we going to do with this green?
Add a little bit of blue to it.
Well, we're keeping it this green. We can go towards the black to make it darker. Now it looks more like Christmas.
That's better.
Christmas.
You like the Christmas theme? We can go this way with it and make it more gray. So that would be turning it into a desaturating it. What's that called though? It's a tint, tone. It's a tone. Making it a tone. Or we can make it lighter, which I don't like, but okay, mint. So we decided we like the dark. Okay, we're going to go with the dark. So let's change this one too, because I don't like Christmas. I'm the Grinch. Okay, so what are we going to do with this guy? We're going to make it darker too. That's kind of nice, maybe. I kind of like that. It's like 2 shades of almost brown. Yeah, it kind of looks like tartan. What if we make it more dull? I don't hate that, but I don't love it.
I would do the same thing for the green.
Yeah, I would too. But what if we lighten this red up?
Yeah.
I like this, but you know, this is the beautiful thing. You guys are going to get to make your own color palettes and mix things that you like. Okay, so we've got 3. So what can we do that's got 3? There's 2 options. One would be
The
triadic color scheme, or we can go for
the split complementary.
right? Okay, somebody was paying. I need to bring some candy or something. Throw out pencils to the class.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me a color. What color are we picking for this? What are we going to start with? Cyan? That's probably the closest I have to cyan. Okay. So what are we doing? We're doing a triadic. So the corners would be, so 1, 2, 3. So this pinkish red color. That color. And then this one will be 1, 2, 3. This orange. Nope. Okay, do we like that color scheme?
I don't like the yellow.
The yellow, orange. Okay, let's change that. How do you want to change it? Darker, lighter,
Lighter.
lighter? Tell me when to stop.
Now.
That's kind of nice. I kind of don't hate that. That looks like something that you'd see on the cover of a teen magazine. Do you want to change any of the others?
No.
You're all happy with that? Okay, cool. So see, by just changing one of the colors, it already makes the whole thing more harmonious. Okay. What color are we picking for the four options? So we can go with tetradic. Yeah, so we can go with the one that's a rectangle, right? Or
triangle.
Triangle would be 3. Yeah, the square.
The
Right.
square.
Yes, the square. So we can go with tetradic or square or
Analog,
Uh,
the one that's
an-
all next
an-
to-
analogous. Analogous, yes. So what are we going to start with?
Blue.
Blue? Okay, let's start with blue. Okay, so what are we going to do? Analogous or?
Purple.
Okay, so if we're doing analogous, then it's got to be purple,
Pink and red.
pink and red. Okay, pink. This is actually magenta and red. There we go. Are we happy with that color scheme?
I think the red should be lighter.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that. The red is a little bit bold. Lighter. Tell me when to stop.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
You don't think those two clash?
Yeah, they look similar.
I think if they're similar but just a little bit too off, that's called they're clashing. So I think those clash a little bit. So I think what if we make this one a little bit grayer? What if we make it into a tone? Ooh. How about it?
Two-tone.
That's better.
I kind of like that.
I don't like the one beside it.
Hmm?
I don't like the purple beside it.
Okay, let's change the purple beside it too. Where are we going with this? Darker, lighter? Darker? Like that?
Right there.
I think
Right
that's
there.
a very nice color scheme, actually. I'd maybe make my room that color if I was feeling frustrated. Okay, that's good. Let's talk quickly about acrylic tips. So less is more. Don't squirt the entire tube out on your palette and then try to mix it into a different color. When you're trying to mix colors, like as much as your pinky nail is probably too much. Okay, start off with, you can always add more. You can't put it back in the tube. So less is more. And the stuff dries, it's going to dry in your palette before you're able to use that much of it.
Do we use misting bottles?
I don't have any, so you just use, that's why you have a clean water and a dirty water. So that's what these are for, the two containers. One is for your very dirty brush. So your first rinse is going to be in one of them, and then the other one is so you can keep some clean water handy if you want to thin out your paint. Also, I think I'll get to that later, but if you want to keep your paints wetter for longer, you can cover them with something plastic. So like if you have paints mixed in here and you put like something plastic on top of it, they will stay. Saran wrap is one way. We've also got these things. They're little, yeah, so little cups. So if you wanted to use little cups to mix, you can break those apart. When I mix at home, I take old Folgers coffee cup lids, and I can just cover it up with the Folgers coffee. So I kind of like to use that sometimes, or things like that. So if you're mixing like green, how do you mix green? Look at your color wheel. Blue and yellow, right? So let's quickly talk about that. So we said the primary colors are blue, yellow, and red in the traditional color wheel. So if you want to mix, if you mix this one and this one together, you're going to get everything in between. If you put more yellow, you're going to get something that's closer to yellow. If you put more red, you're going to get something that's closer to red. So if you want to mix red and yellow together, which one do you think is the stronger color?
Red.
Okay. If you add milk to coffee, when you're done, do you have coffee or milk? Right? You've got coffee with a little bit of milk in it. So you want to start with your weak color and you want to add the stronger color little by little by little by little, okay? Otherwise, you're going to end up with a pile of paint this big and you're still not going to have the color you want. Also, if you do find that you have a big glob of paint and it's not the color you want, scoop a little bit out, put it somewhere else and mix with that. Don't mix with the whole glob of paint. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's different techniques for acrylic. We'll talk about that in a second. I'll show you a couple. So use the right brush for what you're trying to do. I like these for acrylics because the really like soft brushes that you use for watercolors or oils, they don't really spread the acrylics around so well. Acrylics tend to be kind of viscous, thick. So you want the natural bristles to grab them and move them around properly. So these are the right kinds of brushes for acrylics. If you've ever tried to do acrylics with those like watercolor brushes, you'll find that the paint kind of goes next to where you're painting it instead of staying on the brush. This is the right brush for acrylics. So there's many different techniques. We'll talk about that. We always want to use layers when we paint anything. I'm going to keep saying this over and over and over. We did this with the drawing. We're going to do this with the painting. Use layers. Don't just do one layer of acrylic. Do multiple. I love my manager, but if you look at this, the stuff that's multiple layers, some places you can see through it. Not so great. Some places she did extra layers on top. Looks much nicer, right? It would have looked even nicer if she kept going another thinner layer on the trunk to make it round, right? So layers are your friends. Layers create richness. Let's look at Mr. Strange rooster over here. Lots of layers. It's a rooster. Why did they paint a rooster? Nobody knows. It's kind of cool though, but I like it because it's got all of this depth and all of this layering going on it. There's not a single part of this canvas where I can see through to what's underneath.
He looks very proud and haughty.
He looks very proud and haughty, and it creates the impression like you're laying down on the ground and he's coming at you, right? So layers are your friends. If you look at this paint by numbers that they did for the summer project last year, the parts where they only did one layer, not so exciting, right? The parts where they layered multiple layers look good, right? See what I'm saying? You want to do lots of layers. Lots of layers are your friends when it comes to acrylic. No, not with acrylic. With acrylic, you're trying to create a well-rounded, rich effect. Acrylics are not for see-through. If you want to do see-through paint, do watercolors. Watercolors are great when you use them as transparent. But for acrylics, you don't want them to be transparent when you're done. They just don't, in my opinion, they just don't look good. And I'm sure there's an artist out there somewhere that's going to prove me wrong. I just haven't seen it yet. So layers are good. You can also fix your mistakes by adding more layers. So if you get the lip slightly wrong, you can just go fix them with another layer when it's dry. We talked about the water. You have a cloth or a paper or something handy to clean your brush on. Yeah, you can also pre-mix palettes and things like that. If you want to use a specific palette for a picture or a work of art, you can pre-mix it and keep it handy like that. So if you don't have, like maybe you want to use red, green, like red and green, but not like that. You want to use them both. You want to use a tint of both of them. So then you can mix the right shade and keep it in a little cup or something. What else? Ooh, when you're mixing your colors, these things are your friend. Palette knives. If you use a brush, I don't know if you've ever tried mixing colors with a brush, but you wind up with a lot of the paint in your brush. And unless you're actually going to use that paint right now, it's kind of wasteful. So using palette knives when you're preparing a lot of paint can be really, really helpful.
Can you use plastic knives?
Yeah, you can use anything, but like I've used butter knives. When I was a teenager, I used whatever I could find. I didn't have money to buy palette knives. My parents were stingy, so I used old butter knives as palette knives. Loved it. And you can use old credit cards. You don't have to use palette knives. You can use pretty much anything that your imagination can come up with. Acrylic dries quickly, and varnish makes acrylic come to life. Okay, so those are my acrylic tips. We're done with the TV for now.
Is there a way that we can get hold of that program?
I can send you the link to this if you want. You mean this presentation?
Mm-hmm.
I totally lied. We're not done with the computer because I'm going to be doing this.
You forgot you had yours up.
I forgot that I was going to show you guys. I'm showing you the larger version of what I'm drawing also, so you can, if you can't see what I'm doing here, then you can see it on the TV hopefully. Okay, so who here is not ready to paint?
I need a
Okay.
paintbrushes.
Okay, so you can wait in a second, grab the paintbrush. So what we're going to paint today is fruit. So I brought a variety of fruits. I went to the corner market and bought some fruit. You might have to pull some labels off of some of them, I'm sorry. I try to get a bunch of different colors. So the idea is we've already looked at round shapes, bowls. So you're fairly comfortable with painting round things. And then I want you to use color schemes and make an arrangement with your fruit. I've got papers like this, a whole variety of papers like this. So you can pose your fruits on a paper and take pictures of it, or you can just paint your fruit and then paint the background one of the color, like a complementary color or something like that. And yeah, have at it. You can paint just one thing, or you can paint a collection of things. So one of two options that you can do today. You can come over here, grab a paper, grab some fruit, and take a picture. If you want to work on this later, which might be a good idea, if you don't want to keep working on it in class today, because by next week these bananas are going to be done. Okay, they're not going to look like they do today. So,
They look kind of done already.
well, they're interesting. They're good for anti-cancer right now. But I am not going to eat them, I'll put it that way. I like my bananas on the green side. Okay, so as always, if you're I hate bananas, I'm not drawing fruit, then draw whatever you want to. But fruit are a great, easy, entry-level thing for you to draw with paint, or for you to paint with acrylics. So I'm going to demonstrate some techniques. If you just want to come grab some stuff and get started, have at it. But I'm going to demonstrate a few different painting techniques for those of you who are still like, I'm lost, I have no idea what's going on. Okay. So I'm going to do, I guess I'll do like an orange on a blue background or something.
I was telling her to move her drink before it falls over.
Okay. And I
It's
have,
glass.
I
I
have-
don't want it to break.
I also have these paint strips if you want to like use one of them, like when you're mixing your color, you can kind of paint it on the paint strip and then hold it there to see if it's actually the color that you think it is and that you want it to be. So, okay, so I want to mix the color of this orange, right? But I don't really have that color in my palette. What am I going to put together to make that color? Red and yellow. Or this thing that's vermilion and
Yellow.
lemon yellow. Looks like a good combination to use. So I just squeeze out a whole bunch of vermilion red, right, to start off with?
No.
No. What do I squeeze out first?
Yellow.
The yellow. Thank you. Okay. Ooh. This does not want to
Are
open.
you not going to sketch those things first?
No, I use my actual paint that for something as simple as an orange, I don't feel like I need to sketch the orange first. I'm going to add my details with my brush. That's why I picked something super simple like fruit. We don't have to sketch it at first. And if you get the shape slightly wrong, so what? There's no two oranges or mandarins or whatever that's the same shape. So I'm going to put a little bit, and I don't really like to use the little things. I like to use the central area. So I'm going to use
The middle.
the middle, yep. So I'm going to use a lot of the yellow and a little bit of the orange. And then I want a smaller round brush. And since I don't have one, I'm going to open them. And you want to use the right brush for the right job. So I'm going to use one of these small round brushes to start finding my lines. And I'm going to mix with this brush too. So let's see if I'm happy with this color. I'm just going to keep it on my brush. That's close enough for a base color. So now for my base layer, I'm actually going to look at it from this side. So I'm just kind of going to, this is a recycled canvas from the free art closet. Also, something else that you should decide, are you going to fill the whole canvas with your thing, or are you going to put it like off to the side? Is this like a dramatic story you're trying to tell? Like, is there a lot of space around this orange? Something that you should keep in mind.
The dramatic orange.
The dramatic orange. So it's mostly round, but it's got this little nipple thing on the side. Oh, can't say nipple. So I'm going to give it this little bump. Thank you, Rebecca. It's a good word. So I'm going to give it the little bump. And then I'm going to use my base color, and I'm actually going to add a little bit of water because I want this to be thinner for my base color. And I'm just going to cover the whole thing in this color. My first layer, it doesn't have to be pretty. It's just a base layer. And for this part, I actually want to use a thicker, bigger brush. So I'm just going to clean this one off. Use as much paint as I can. And then make sure that when you're using acrylics, you clean your brushes properly. You don't have to wait for me to show this if you want to get started, by the way. But when this dries, it turns to plastic. It will destroy your brush. So make sure you clean them properly. We do have brush washers, which I don't understand as somebody who is not American, honestly, because we just wash brushes where I'm from. But we have brush washers. Okay.
I was told to use shampoo.
Not for acrylics, no. For oils, because shampoo would cut through oil. But we also have, like we've got brush soap or something like that, which also, again, I don't understand. For acrylics, you can just use water. You don't even have to use soap. And I guess I didn't mix enough. So I'm going to mix a little bit more. And again, you want to start with the weakest color and then add a little bit of the darker color until you're happy with the results. And now that I'm trying to mix a color that's the same as the previous color, I like to mix a little bit on the side so I can compare it. And then I can maybe, yeah, that's pretty close. But if it wasn't, I might want to add a little bit of yellow or a little bit of red to it. So Okay. So I'm going to do my base layer of this orange. And another thing that I could have done, since I know that I'm going to have my background color be blue, is I could have actually drawn the outline of the orange in blue, which is something that I'll do if I'm painting people, because a lot of your... Hey! How's it going?
For next month's course, Sarah?
Yeah, just ask them at the front desk.
Okay.
So for faces, a lot of your shadows, like the under your eyes and stuff, they're actually blue, your veins and things. So I like to use blue as a lining color often. Okay, so I'm happy with my base layer. I might want to let that dry a little bit. Now I'm going to look at my orange and I'm going to see, okay, so there's some areas where it's darker, right, where the shadow is. And on this orange, the shadow, in comparison to this color, when I hold this color next to the shadow, I think the shadow is a little bit more red, maybe a little bit more brown. So I'm going to take I think if I take my burnt sienna, I'm going to get a good shadow color going here. So maybe I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna to one side of my orange here to test the theory. And it's not a lot, it's just a little bit. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good shadow color, right? So I compare it to my shadow, and I'm happy with that as a shadow color. So now I'm doing this faster than I should. I should wait for this to dry. But I'm just going to start adding my shadow in here with the slightly darker color. And don't be afraid of contrast. Okay, so yeah, I definitely want this to dry a little bit more, because do you see how the wet paint is just kind of absorbing this paint that I'm putting on top of it? So I can overcome that by using a more pure version of this dark paint. But again, this is just my second layer. I'm going to be doing more layers. Okay.
About how long would it take to dry?
Acrylics dry fairly quickly. It really depends on the type of acrylic you're using, the brand, the thickness, the temperature in the room, how much air is flowing. There's a lot of variables that can factor into that. But
I mean, are we talking minutes? Or
minutes.
Okay.
Minutes. Yeah, minutes. Yeah, if you go make a cup of coffee and you come back and you think you're going to be using wet on wet technique, you're probably going to be disappointed. Yeah. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to clean these brushes properly. And now I'm wasting actually a lot of paint, but I think with this I'm going to add a lime next to it, just because I'm feeling frisky. Or maybe I'll add a lemon. Oh, we don't have lemons. I thought I had lemon.
a lemon.
Ah, you have the lemon. Okay, that's fine. I'll just use the lime, because I'm just showing you guys what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna, while I'm waiting for the orange to dry, I leave my brushes in water. It's not a good idea, don't do it, but I do it because I do things that are not good ideas sometimes. And I'm just going to use some of this paint that's sitting up here.
Now, are you allowed to use orange and greens or not?
Yeah.
In related
Dude, I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't use. If you want to use this paint straight out of the tube, knock yourself out. So I'm actually going to cheat. And the Impressionists did. Part of their thing was they refused to mix colors. They mixed the colors on the paper. So they mixed colors visually on the paper by making tiny dots next to each other. And then your eye would blend them if you looked at them from far away. So they only used paint as they came straight out of the tubes. So I'm not super happy with that for a base color. Let's see, I want it to be...
They bought paints in that time?
They did make their own paints too, but yes, you could still, this was the early 20th century, so you could buy paints commercially at that point. Yes, I'm going to start my lime also, so I have something to show you some of the other techniques on. Because for the orange, I'm basically doing washes. I think for the lime, I'll do a dry brush technique. Maybe I'll do a dry brush for the orange. And the lime's kind of boring at that angle. I think I'm going to have the little nubbies touch each other or point to each other.
Bumps.
The bumps. Okay, so my lime is much less interesting than my orange. So I'm actually going to make it more interesting by making the little bump bigger. Maybe they're having a conversation. Maybe it's a mama citrus and a baby citrus. I don't know. Citrus party. Okay, so now while the orange is drying, the lime can dry too. And if you guys want to use the orange or the lime for your thingy, you're welcome to use them. You don't have to. Don't be shy. Okay.
Sarah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Is that the shape that you see? That's a good base color. Now, what do you want to do? You want to make that, you want to draw brighter shades on top of that, right? Because there's parts of that that's much brighter. So you want to use the bright yellow. And you can use any of the paints in that big, yeah. So you want to use some, so mix the two together in a small area and see what happens. You can also add whites. Yeah, take whatever you want to use, take them. And you can break the bananas up. Go for it. Don't be shy. There's grapes over there. I don't know if there's anything left in the bag. I got distracted. Nope, the bag's empty.
I think I only need one, but
One banana sounds good. For the bananas, you want to make your base color the yellow and you want to add the brown spots at the end. So for things like these, you want to probably make your base color, like if you look, like there's red stripes, but your base color is probably going to be that yellow. And then, the palette knife? Yeah, go for it. I more or less know what the orange looks like, and I can come borrow it. Palette knife. Here's a palette knife, Rebecca. So I can see the orange from over here. So so I want to go a little bit darker on my shadow color. Ooh, that's too much water. And this is part of why I have a place to dry my brush. So I'm going to go darker on my shadow. I like dramatic effects on my paintings. Yeah, please help yourselves to whatever's in the tub too if you want to, if you don't see the color that you want to start with in your box over there.
But then the painter person actually does like the brush.
That sounds very boring. So I'm just adding layers and different washes on top of each other for this one. I'm gonna use a little bit of this yellow ochre. And I'm going to use a little bit of white. Yeah, knock yourself out.
They're hard to open.
Yep.
So you can be adventurous with your paints and just kind of mix things together and see what happens. Don't let it get away. After it.
Sarah,
Yes?
look.
Yeah. So let it dry a little bit and then add more accents because do you see that there is more brighter yellows at the top too?
Yeah, I haven't added the yellow yet.
So you can cover up this with one of these.
These colors, four together, or you do the triangle, you use those colors.
So cover your paint up with this so they don't dry out while this is drying, and then wait a little bit and then do another layer of just a bright yellow mixed, or mix white with that, what you've got on your palette or something like that. Or you can start working on your background.
If we don't have the green.
You can mix green. So if you don't, you can use one of these.
think green would look good.
You can use like something like this, and then
That's
just
the color you
almost, right? So you want to add like a little bit of yellow to that to get the color of your background. And you don't have to make it exactly that color either. So I'm kind of painting out of my head at this point. But I know that the front part of my bowl is going to catch more of the light. So it's going to be wider. And if I don't like the color when it's dry, guess what? I can just paint over it, because that's the wonderful thing about acrylics.
Yeah, I got my color.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good color. And now while this little thing's drying, I'm going to work on my lime.
What are you doing? Paper towels. Yeah. Hard to get.
Yes. Yes, I will. Thank you.
Do you need help?
Oh yeah, some of these things are just annoying.
Well, once the paint,
I think maybe what
once
I
they
need
squeeze a little paint out, it gets stuck in the wood.
Mm.
a gray wood really. Yeah, that would.
Yeah, so wipe them off before you put them back, maybe. That's a good idea. Palette knives, we only have a few. Ooh, they were up there. So you might just have to use brushes. That's okay. We're not working with massive. Rebecca has one you can use. We're not using with.
I'm done with it.
It's not that important today because we're not working with large quantities of paint. It's more important if you're working with big pieces.
Okay. Thank you.
Should have did the background first,
Hmm?
then the fruit.
You could, but then you'd have to add more layers. Well, for yours, it probably wouldn't matter. I do recommend taking a picture of your fruit from the same angle you're drawing them from.
Whoops.
You mean like for the memories?
Well, if you don't finish it today, it's... Yeah, we've got another hour, 45 minutes. So if you don't think you can finish this in 45 minutes, take a picture. For the memories too, if you want, though, I guess. Yep, I forgot my speaker at home, so we'll just have to enjoy the peaceful sound of paintbrushes on canvas today.
Hey, it's better than squeaky noise.
Yes, definitely not squeaky noise. It's better than that.
I know. Well, that's, I mean, normally you're not painting like miniatures on canvas. You know, there's like more squeaky questions, I think. Have you ever seen this movie about JWMT Turner? I love this movie. I don't know what it's called. Is it called Turner? Have you guys seen it?
No.
No idea.
He's great. English painter, 1700s. And there's one memorable scene where, you know, they have like sort of a National Academy of Art at this time in Britain. And he is
Oops, I got both my words.
he's a well-known painter. His work is,
Then you go clean them.
and
Get your steps in, girl.
he goes in and they're all like kind of ready and they're all getting their painting set, you know, for the big opening. Everyone's sort of fussing around. He comes in, his painting's already hanging on the wall, and he takes out a tube of alizarin crimson, and he's just like, he whacks this big log on, and the other painters are like so scared for him, right? Like he's just ruined this beautiful piece that he's been working on.
Oh dear.
And then he works it, like he takes his thumb, he like works with it, and suddenly there's a little red sailboat in his like monochromatic scene. It was a total masterpiece.
Oh, you were using that?
I'm sorry.
I think it's
It's crazy.
No, I have more.
It's crazy. If you enjoy
I didn't realize
painting,
you were using it.
you'll probably enjoy the movie.
Yeah, what was the name of it?
I wish I could remember.
Google it.
She told us all about it, and she doesn't know.
It stars Timothy Paul, and it's about J.W. Turner.
Okay, so you Google movie, J.W.M. Turner, and that name of that actor that you just said. And then you'll find it.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Yeah. So now it looks like your orange is dry, so now you can add some more layers, or your lemon, right? Do you see how now that you've painted the background, this looks more orange than yellow? So you definitely want to go build up some of that yellow, right? But you don't want to cover the whole thing in yellow. So this is what you're going to do, right? So you're going to take some yellow. So I'm going to do it with this lime. Is my lime dry? So you're going to take some yellow, and you're just going to kind of make your brush very dry. This is the dry brushing technique if anybody wants to pay attention to it. So you make your brush very, very dry, and then you only get a little bit of paint on it, and then you can kind of actually dry it off a little bit more after that, and then you just kind of add yellow that way. I guess my green isn't that dry yet, so I'll let it dry some more. So you just kind of dust a color on top of another color. You just want to touch the front bristles. Tickle it.
I like your pear.
Thank you. It's a little too green, but I'll get it later. Gotta let it dry first.
Yeah, it's just the first layer. I need some more orange. It's a pretty good tangerine color. Yeah, the tubes acrylic paint are probably going to take a little bit longer to dry than the liquid ones, but who knows. And then once you've done like getting the color down that you want, you can go like really get minute and draw the little pores, and but you want to do your kind of like base first.
How do you get rid of the orange? Put more color on it?
More yellow. Yeah, but don't get rid of all of it. Blend it out. So you wanna leave some of that orange around the outsides, and just so it's not all the way dry yet. Just play with it until you're happy. But be careful not to just make it one color. Like you wanna mix it up and.
No, I don't let that dry.
All right, definitely want to let it dry in between. Walk around, look at some of the paintings in here.
Is that the stem or the banana? Is that the stem or the banana?
This is the banana. I'm getting ready to. It's drying out. So give it some help here.
There's a fluorescent line or apple for you.
Well, there's nothing wrong with making your apples look super fluorescent. Like, There's a lot of really cool pop artists that's done stuff like that. Do you need your glasses, Julie?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
What would I do without you, Sarah?
I don't know. Not wear your glasses, probably.
That's true.
What are you drawing, Sarah? Drawing the inside of an orange.
The inside.
The inside of an orange.
Did you cut it open?
No, I have a picture of it.
Oh, okay.
I cut it open now.
I thought that was pretty unorthodox.
Instead of a orange, just take a picture of it. Look that great though. Well noted.
So what I'm doing is a wet on wet technique. So I have a glob of wet paint and I put more wet paint next to it and I kind of let them blend on the canvas.
Sounds great.
Yep, that's what we got. Thanks. We're painting grapes.
That looks cool.
They're not behaving.
I like it.
What, fatter?
Yes. Because this one,
It's hard to persuade the painter to it.
We have tiny, 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 tiny brushes.
I didn't see any over there.
Well, there's a couple of ways that you can do a tiny, tiny, tiny brush.
Bring one from home.
The first way is to use that brush on its side. The other way is to use a brush that's not right for the job, but we do have lining brushes. These are lining brushes, Sarah. These are actually watercolor lining brushes, but you can probably use them for acrylics too. You're welcome. Okay, I need to let this dry.
Wow, your orange is coming perfectly.
Thank you. Layers, layers, girl, lots and lots of layers. That's the trick. That's the only trick. It's really there's no magic here. It's just layers. Layers until you're happy.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to show like light or like reflection, you
Mhm.
add a lighter color or white.
You can do either. So on this one, it's pretty monochromatic. It's pretty much one color. So I would probably just go with a tint. So just adding white, pure white to your orange, the same color orange, and just kind of gradually building it up. And then you can even right at the end add some places where there's a very light version of this color. But if you want to start in your background while that dries, that could also work. That's a good, you match the color very well. How are you going to do the highlights?
I think white.
yeah, that's what we were just talking
Mhm.
about. You
Yeah.
have a couple little spots. And
Yeah.
circles.
I also like the color scheme. Very cool.
See? I said it was
Sarah
cool.
approved. Mm. So you're going with like well, I guess that could be analogous or complementary, depending on how you look at it. Depending on how you express it, I should say.
Got the color shading out good.
So
Still wet.
you've got a little bit of
It's still
extra yellow here. Spread that out a little bit more, so because that's going to stay wet longer. Yeah, that's it. That's it. And you can always use the time in between to go change your water, wash your brushes.
So can I make these grapes look better than they
You
do
can
in
make,
person?
you can do whatever you want to. You're the artist. Yes. Go crazy.
I thought this was supposed to be realistic.
No, this is the camera freed you from having to draw realistic, girl. You're not a printer. Do whatever you want. I mean, we are learning to draw realistic, but if you feel like you want to take a little bit of license, go for it. Yeah, go for it. Put a unicorn. Go with your bad self.
I have never been one to wanna do things too wild.
Yeah. Who's your favorite painter?
You're even working with a brush, so there's nothing, it's pretty close.
Different strokes for different folks.
How about if you use more paint? Is that gonna be like flowier?
Still wet.
Mm-hmm.
You're working with areas.
Still wet? Well, you can blow on it. Might help.
Yours had white in it before.
Hmm?
The canvas had white in it.
Yeah, this is one of the canvases somebody donated to the free art closet, but it wasn't. Oh, go away. What did I do? No, whatever I did, I didn't mean to do it. I'm sorry. My phone's talking to me. One of the canvases somebody donated to the free art closet, but it was not in the best condition, so I figured I'd use that for a demo instead of giving it to somebody to paint their masterpiece on and then going moldy.
Maybe that's what you're painting. Maybe it turns out.
Apparently I am.
Sometimes the canvas talks to you.
Or a phone.
Or your phone, yeah, in my case. Even for your background, you want to add multiple layers, especially with this stuff, the stuff in the tubes or the jars. Jars? This is not a jar.
It's a tube.
Bottle, a bottle. No, this is a tube. I'd call this a tube. This is like a tub. No, it's not a tub either. A bottle. Let's just call it a bottle.
More paint. And then don't smush.
Sarah, what time are we leaving? Okay.
You just like draw it out. That's embarrassing. You can't find a line.
I don't. We usually leave at
trying to
7,
get the
that's
paint
why I
into the
asked.
canvas.
I know, but I'm in the middle of something.
But I can see it. It's done.
Is it dry yet? Since it's a small canvas, you can fan it. It's maybe a little bit harder with a big canvas and a messier, but a small one you can probably fan. Yes.
Dumb question. Why are we using canvas?
What else are you going to paint with acrylics on?
Paper?
No, paper's going to curl up too much.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you really don't want to. Acrylic is, there's just too much water in it.
We're kind of struggling over here with the medium, shall we say.
What are you struggling with?
Trying to get a thin line.
Ah, okay. So you got to use more paint and press lighter, or you can
She was saying, use more paint.
use more paint. I know it sounds strange, but if you use more paint, it flows off the brush more evenly, and then you can also use your background color to cover some of that up.
Some of it.
Yeah. And then Sarah has some lining brushes over here. If you want to try one of these, not for acrylic paint lining brushes, go for it. I don't like those for acrylics. There are some people who disagree with me, and they're entitled to their stupid opinions.
I'm glad we know how to think about those.
Those people.
Those sense. Lining brush as in drawing a line?
Lining brushes as in making small, thin, narrow lines, yes.
Is it okay to add water to it?
Yeah, you can thin it out. Then you're just gonna have to do more layers. But the washing technique where you just make layer over layer over layer that's kind of thin, kind of like watercolor, is for that one you would have to add water.
There. I finally got yellow on it.
Nice. Now don't add more yellow to the brush. Stop right there, right? Add a little dot of yellow right there. Okay, now put that brush down. Clean it. And is it clean?
Yeah.
Okay, now you're going to take a smaller brush. And you're going to spread that paint out with a dry, clean brush. So instead of adding more paint, you're just going to, I'll show you. So you're going to spread this to the edges.
Okay.
So it blends.
You got some orange in here. Put some orange in it.
Yeah, you're kind of mixing the orange and the yellow together a little bit. It's funny how things look different on the TV versus to the naked eye.
It actually looks cool.
Yeah, it's different, but it's not bad. By the way, pro cheapskate tip, if you want cheap canvases, go to the thrift shop and go get those prints that people bought from IKEA and then decided they hated a year later, and just put gesso over them.
I was walking down my street one day when the trash was gonna go that night, and I found this giant canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, I could use this for something.
Yeah.
And someone had painted on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, paint over it.
Yeah. I have a few like that.
My favorite are the ones that say words on them, like say love or something. It needs to be painted over.
Yes, they're just begging you to cover them. I saw a picture of like the ultimate Karen coffin that had "Eat, Pray, Love" written inside the lid of the coffin.
A Karen coffin?
Yeah, Karen. It was labeled Karen. It was a meme that said Karen's coffin.
Oh.
It was like "Eat, Pray, Love" on the inside of the coffin lid. If you're done with the paper, put them back on the stack.
What's that special soap stuff?
Let me grab the soap and the brush cleaner for you. Oh, it might be out there actually. It actually might be out here already. This is the brush cleaner, and let me see if the soap's in there. Yeah, there's the soap. So you just fill this with water. You don't really need this stuff. Just fill that with water, and you just use the bottom to like move your brushes around and get the paint off them.
I guess I should start doing it in layers. I've heard someone mention to me about layers. We've been talking.
You rushed me to leave, and now you're in my space.
Okay, so next week we're going to start on a landscape, or if you don't want to do a landscape, you can do like a tree or a bush. You can really do anything that doesn't require you to draw lines, because we're going to do it impressionist style. So yeah, we're going to use paint, and we're just going to make dots of color where you see them. And I'm going to allow you to mix the colors, but I don't want you to do any drawing. We're just painting the colors we see where we see them.
Is that
So,
what they did?
yeah,
They didn't do any sketching on them?
no.
They just dotted it down?
Yeah, they were all about capturing a moment in time that was very fleeting. So there was no pre-mixing of colors, there was no pre-sketching. It was just very quick washes in some cases, but mostly just stippling. Yeah.
Did they use the same size brush? Like same dots?
Most of them did use one brush for the entire painting. It was very much about brush stroke and stuff like that. Like the brush strokes were very important to the process.
Who figured that out?
It was just they were just experimenting. I'll do a whole presentation on it next week, probably. They were experimenting because of the camera. So yeah, because the camera was invented for the first time, artists weren't expected to draw realistic anymore, and they were like, we're just going to do whatever we want. So they became interested in. So the camera kind of influenced them in that way, that they were interested in the fleeting moment being captured instantly, rather than this painstaking process of painting that would take months. So they used more commercially produced paints and straight out of the bottle or tube.
It looks better on the picture, the TV, than that.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think that blue is too blue on the TV though. But this is just my first layer of the background too. I'm gonna shade my background a little bit. So I'm doing kind of a color field background, but I'm gonna add lighter and darker areas.
Can we leave ours here?
Yeah, you can leave your stuff. If you want to put your canvases down somewhere to dry, probably put them on different, like put newspaper under, put newspaper underneath them first. But put them on different levels of that thing. So just open some newspaper on the bottom of that and then put it in there. Because they might still have paint on the sides too.
I like the got the colors for the apple.
It was like this big, I think.
Your canvas is bigger than ours.
Yeah, well, it's going to be kind of hard for you guys to see those small ones from the back.
That's true.
Yeah, and bigger means more work to cover it. Takes longer.
She almost got it, except down the.
Whenever you have those, lots of variation, things like this, stand out here. See how, this is where the stem went in here? And so, like, there's kind of a ring around the top, which is great.
What did you
Yeah,
have?
it's just
Do those love paint in there?
And
No.
that ring is sort of
I used to.
whiter.
Oh,
See, I think I got that pretty good there. And then this one, you can see there's like yeah, I could put like
If you guys have any questions, just shout, hey.
yeah, like a
I know I'm doing my own thing here, but if you need help, LMK.
so that you're fooling me out completely, and then what you're saying, this is a round shape, and the eye is like, oh, okay.
That looks nice.
Right, that's how we perceive shape.
Was this mine?
If you didn't use them, just put them back in the tubs where you found them.
I like your banana. Thank you.
And if you want to come and work on your stuff during open loft times, you're welcome to do that too.
That's what we might do.
After the 15th of April, I'll be able to come.
Okay.
Oh, are you a tax preparer?
Yes.
Mm.
My parents also are tax preparers, which I think is crazy, but
I mean, like, who likes doing taxes so much that they want to do other people's taxes? I don't even want to do my taxes. Very cool. Yeah. Very
That's
nice.
my volunteer give back.
I think I'm doing it backwards. You should probably start with the light first and then go dark.
There's people do it different ways. So if it makes sense to you to do it that way, then do it that way. Because you can also build up the light, right? Build up the color from dark to light. That's one way to do it. I tend to start with a medium color and then go both darker and lighter, but I do that in all my mediums. So there's people, and I've done it like that too. If I'm doing like a black background, I'll do it like that. So. I can't eat fruit salad. I'm allergic to most, not allergic, but I have an intolerance to most fruits.
I just learned you can make ice cream from bananas.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to try.
what, you can't eat most fruit?
Yeah, the sugars in fruits, I have an intolerance to the sugars that's in most fruits.
They spike you, your sugar?
No, it's, they cause inflammation and all kinds of other stuff, including brain fog and stuff like that for me. For a lot of people, actually, apparently.
What, those bananas?
No, I have an intolerance to a lot of different, it's called FODMAPs.
Oh.
Yeah, so, and it's in garlic and onion mainly, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So there's like, I'm very limited on what fruits I can eat.
That's
Like
crazy.
I can eat a whole tangerine usually. Most citrus are okay, except for grapefruit. I can't have grapefruit at all. I can have a maximum of 6 strawberries, and that maxes me out on fructose. I cannot eat grapes and strawberries together unless I eat 3 grapes and 3 strawberries.
Wow.
So yeah.
What happens to you if you
So the sugars, it's about the way my body digests the sugars. If I keep doing it, my body, I get inflammation. So when I discovered that I had this intolerance, I was constantly fatigued. I had brain fog. I was constantly bloated and in pain.
it's like a chronic condition?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us have chronic inflammation. It's not great.
So you ease back on the fruit and the sort of level of inflammation and inflammation.
Yeah, my overall, like, I do a fast once a month, 36-hour fast, and I never feel as good as after I fasted and didn't put anything through my digestive system for 36 hours. The rest of the time, I'm pretty much always miserable, to some extent or another. But yeah,
I
like-
always feel bloated. No matter what I do, I feel bloated.
I used to feel that way, and I tried all kinds of different diets and things, and like maybe it's this and maybe it's that, and then when I discovered that this was the issue, it was like miracle. Like everything just
I cut
clicked into
out
place.
gluten, and that helped.
A lot of people that find that they have gluten issues, it's really the wheat, because wheat's one of the things I can't eat.
Yeah, wheat.
So.
And yeah, I don't eat anything gluten, no.
Hmm. So maybe you should look into this, because it
Yeah.
might not be the gluten. It
I
might
love
be.
fruit though.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
It's called the FODMAP. It's FODMAP intolerance. Is
FODMAP intolerance.
yeah, the low FODMAP diet, or or it's called FODMAP intolerance. Very cool. I like the shadows.
But then you used to love
Yeah, I can still eat fruit. I just have to be careful about what I eat and what quantities.
Okay.
Like there are certain
Yeah.
things, like apples, I can eat 2 tablespoons of apple. Or, sorry, no, it's apples 1 tablespoon. Pears 2 teaspoons. So there's certain, like watermelons 2 tablespoons. So there's certain things that's not even worth eating. I don't even bother getting a watermelon because I know I'm not going to eat it before it goes bad.
what the whole shape is. And then, so once you figure around, like, yeah, I would do that, I would like make sure you're happy with the round. And then I would come back with a slightly darker, like you add a little bit more, and like the shadows. Right, so that you're adding to what I was doing. And then I came back and I put the white in, and I added the highlight part. So I started with like a mid-tone.
This feels to me like
Yeah.
but not.
But then, yeah, I did that and it was too bright and then I was like, and so I kept on painting over it and painting over it, you know.
Yeah.
And I admit, using some water. So that's true though, the color you have right there, that's it. So, about these layers,
Mm-hmm. Are you going to argue with me? Don't you argue with me.
I'm still trying to understand. I thought I would start to understand when I painted, and I was like, I'm not sure if I understand what you mean. So, okay, so let's look at your orange and your line over there.
Mm-hmm.
So you put some more layers on, and actually I haven't been watching the whole time, but you added like the lighter part as a layer?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So the way I'm doing this basically is I'm kind of stippling. The way I've been doing both of these more or less. And I kind of tend to take the texture of whatever I'm painting into consideration. When I do skin, I really like to do, it depends if it's like somebody with very smooth skin, I'll usually do wet on wet. So wet on wet would be like, so I'll do my first layer like my background here, for example. And then for my second layer, I might decide, okay, I'm gonna go with I want some of this blue and I don't know. Some like, I'll add some white and some black to this blue in different proportions, right? So I'll start with my base color. And then I'll have my base color mixed with a little bit of white and my base color mixed with a little bit of black. I don't know where my white went or where we have white. Do we have white? Oh. No, I'll grab some from the closet. I'm going to use a bigger brush for this. So let's say I want to add some dark areas underneath my fruit, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go with some of this that has the black in it, some of this shades. But now I don't want it to have a hard edge. Maybe I'm using soft light in this scenario. So I'm going to keep that wet layer and then I'm going to take my base color and add it right next to it. And then I'm kind of just going to blend the two together on the canvas. So just kind of smooth them together with my brush. So that's the wet on wet technique with acrylics. It's super simple. Especially if you're doing simple things like backgrounds. Or skin like arms and legs, and the trick is just not getting carried away.
Did we just set it here?
But then let me show you another technique. I'm gonna So I'm going to show you the dry brushing technique too. So I mix some of this white in. I'm going to put a very small amount over here, right? Like a very thinned out, flattened out amount. And I'm actually spreading it around so that I get a very flattened out area. And then I'm going to take a dry, clean brush. I'm just going to touch the tips of the bristles to it basically. And I'm just going to brush it. on areas of the painting, and they give you this really cool smooth effect that you can kind of blend out, and that looks really cool for like skin and like it creates texture, depth. It looks really cool for certain applications. So that's dry brushing. I haven't had an area really dry enough to dry brush it properly. But so you might add like a line of a color and then brush it out without adding more paint. So just kind of smooth it out. I'm not using dry brushing for this, it's way too much work. Okay guys, you can leave them, put them in these pigeonholes. Just be mindful there's other people's ones in there already. So you can leave them there to dry. And then you can come back and work on them during open loft times if you want to, or you can just grab them next week if you're satisfied. These are just kind of practice paintings to get comfortable and confident in acrylics.
This is my masterpiece.
Okay. Well then keep working at it until you're happy.
Yeah. It'll take a couple of years.
I think they kind of look like they're supposed to, almost.
I think they look really good. I think you did a great job, and I like that you added the shadows. There's one thing though, you'd probably have a shadow behind the pear to the banana, but I could be wrong, you might not see it from where you're sitting.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be some definition there.
Yeah.
You're right.
You're saying
If not shadow, then maybe you want to add an imaginary brown spot there or something.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome. Guys, yes, have a good week. We've got 9 minutes before end of class.
Oh my God.
I know you're all carried away with your paintings, and I'm glad. It makes me happy. But
yeah. So
class ends in 9 minutes.
isn't that paint dry? I mean, like it should, like imagine painting like that.
I guess if you really wanted, you could take it.
You should have
So
it
it just
more-
went from the grocery store into the bag?
Yeah,
Yeah, give yourself like a few
Yeah.
minutes amount.
yeah.
Just go crazy.
As long as you can't eat them.
Well, I'm gonna put them in the kitchen for the staff, what's left. But if you really want it, go for it.
Oh my God, this is so exciting, you know, that all there's this paper on it. It's like a sea of stuff that is.
Next week will be my last time because I gotta head back to Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
So, are you gonna be doing this in the fall?
Yep, we plan on it.
Okay,
So-
kind of a year-round thing?
We plan on keeping it going as long as you guys are interested. So if you want to sign up again, go for it. Just make sure to cancel your registration
Yeah.
after next week so somebody from the waitlist can join.
You started getting my creative juices going again. I haven't painted in
That's
so many
great.
years.
That's what I love hearing. Make sure to fill out comment cards.
Wait, they're on the comment cards?
Yeah, you can fill out comment cards. That's it's a big help for us for getting funding for library programs. So there's comment cards at the front desk if you want to fill one out.
I need a little bit of orange on the bottom of my pear, don't I? Reflection from the
Yeah,
orange.
yeah, you probably do have a reflection. I mean, the pear is kind of matte, so there's not a whole lot, but from this angle that I'm at, I certainly see areas that's got orange reflection. That's a great great place to use dry brushing.
Okay. See if I can build some orange with a dry brush.
Thank you. Have a good week.
So. How about mix a new color? Do you want the paper picked up?
The newspaper, that would be really helpful. If you want to help me with that, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, so you should be able to